Well, I think the media does. We look for things that are different, things that have conflict in them, things where people can get excited about or angry about or pleased about or worried about, or, which heighten the emotions, because that makes you keep watching, it makes you keep reading, makes you keep listening.
Can I add a sour note of disagreement with Simon Wilson, just straight away, just off the bat? I mean, I think that's true to an extent, that we do define the election issues, but and especially in the press gallery, it seems that there is a huge amount of being led around by the nose by politicians, and the politicians defining the issue of the day.
Annabelle, what sort of familiar themes or tropes are you seeing coming out in this election, which are informing the narrative in a way?
The first victim tends to be convictions of a politician, and we've seen that over the last few weeks. We've had Grant Robertson tell us for 6 years that, GST or fresh fruit and veg is not something that's feasible, and now he's, had a complete change of heart, tongue in cheek. I think probably the tropes that we see every election, Māori and migrants. It's a little bit different this election in terms of migrants because post-COVID, but, always Māori and those kind of more vulnerable communities are the ones that tend to make a lot of headlines.
What sort of things are you hearing from Te Ao Māori that aren't getting the attention that they need?
I've just spent, a few days in the Esk Valley, and it's horrific up there. And not only are they dealing with the flood damage, but all of the problems that existed before the floods, like methamphetamine use, poverty, suicide, mental health, all of those issues are still there, but we're just not talking about them as much.
How challenging is it to be fair, accurate and balanced in an increasingly inaccurate world?
I write features and news which I believe are fair, accurate and balanced, and I don't have a point of view in them. I also write columns which do have a point of view of them. I would also like to say that they are fair, accurate and balanced. I haven't been to the Esk Valley, but I have spent time on the west coast of Auckland, written about Karikari and written about Muriwai, where the same cyclone Gabrielle caused such extraordinary damage there.
There's not as much money to pay people to cover climate in depth or to have regional reporters. RNZ, where I work, we've lost a lot of our regional journalists. I mean, is it money?
To what extent have elections become a competition, a horse race? It's like watching reality TV sometimes. There's a new scandal, there's a new headline, it's personality politics. Hayden?
To a great extent. There's a few things that I'd say about this. I'm not opposed to personality politics that much. I don't think that we should be deciding elections in a pure chamber of policy where we all just go in its blank walls. Parliament is made up of human beings, and we are partly deciding on not just the policy, but whether we believe that person will be able to implement it, whether they'll stand up for us. And there's lots of stuff in politics that are human.
There's impact on this competitive nature, this horse race that we're in.
My concern is, I see the huge amounts of money that gets poured into polling, and I just think of all the journalists that could have those jobs to investigate instead. And to me, it seems like politics and elections by a focus group of 1,000 people and how they felt on any given day.
I don't have the same problem with polling that Annabelle does, because when you cover elections down at a lower level, like council elections or individual electorate elections, it's very hard to do if there isn't polling information. My problem is the money. I thought when you said the money spent on polling, but actually the funding of political parties is a really serious issue. In this election now, with National getting 5 times the amount of public donations that Labour's getting, is it 7? Okay, up to 7.
The polling becomes the story, becomes the polling in a way. Yeah. You end up in a narrative lock. Like Labour just had a terrible poll just before when we're recording this, and so everyone's saying they're in a death spiral. Well, the death spiral is partly caused by the media. You have the media saying they're dead in the water. The media saying they're dead in the water causes the electorate to think they're dead in the water. Then they don't say that they're going to vote for them, and then they get another poll, and then you get more round in circles. I don't know the way out of that.
It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. Because it costs a lot of money to poll, when you get your poll results, even if it's not particularly interesting, because your company's made a big investment in it, you've really got to punch it up.
I think one of the big problems is something you alluded to before, that we in the media are very good at judging policies on what we think their electoral impact will be, rather than the inherent quality of the policies. And where policies that are significant for the country, but may not be electorally successful or may not be electorally popular at first blush, those policies need to be debated and assessed.
And of course, we're scared of doing that because it seems like making a judgment that's political or biased. But actually, the truth doesn't lie somewhere in the epicenter of what the left and the right-wing parties are proposing.
I think we also need to think about who we're talking to. Like, I spent some time in Ikaroa Rāwhiti recently, and nobody knows who's standing down there. They don't know what the policies are. People are so busy trying to survive that they don't even pay any attention to any of this stuff. So when we're creating this content, who are we creating it for? Are we really just talking to ourselves in an echo chamber? What does our content mean to ordinary voters? And I think particularly for Māori media, that's something that we have to keep in mind.
Is the media just talking to itself?
The media is not talking to itself. I mean, it is a little more than we'd like to think, but we are talking to the electorate, and I think the media, as I said at the start, the media is extraordinarily influential in this. The media helps set agendas, steers issues, and steers politicians. Our role has to be always to try and work out what is important and to make sure people are thinking about what's important in ways where they will get the arguments and be able to form opinions that are based on the information and the facts and the evidence.
Thank you, you three brainy people. I really appreciate your insights.